What's up, guys? It is Sam here, and I wanted to talk about two things. But before I do that, make sure you press that subscribe button, just like this color. Just gently tap on it. And there's just that bell notification. Just gently tap on the bell notification so that YouTube can notify you every time I post a new video. Now, with that being said, the two things that I wanted to talk about were how Robinhood makes money, and they put an application into the OCC. OCC. We'll talk about that in a second. So, how Robinhood makes money. So, I have their website up here, and I wanted to. One of the things that I don't think a lot of people understand or have any knowledge of, I wanted to talk on that. But there's three basic ways that how Robinhood makes income currently, right? But with the rapidly accelerating user base, the sheer number of users on Robinhood's platform is going to open up other opportunities for them to make money, and that's going to what I'm going to touch on when I talk about the OCC application. So Robinhood Gold, that's their premium service. It allows you to get actual more up-to-date bid and ask prices. It also allows you to use margin and get, I think it's Morningstar research and research, a couple other things similar. Like, it's just like a premium service. It's like $5 a month. And then if you want to do margin above what the $5 allows you to do, I think it's like $1,000 or something, then you pay 5% per year, which is actually a pretty cheap price for that. So that's the one way they make money. The next is, they call it rebates from market makers and trading venues. So there's something called high frequency traders, and what they do is they're able to, you have stocks that will trade simultaneously in Chicago and in New York and maybe in, actually I think the trading actually takes place in New Jersey or something like that. The actual place it is, even though everybody thinks of it as in New York, it's New Jersey. And maybe say Pennsylvania or something. I think there's something, depending on what it is that you're trading, right? So if you're trading in 3 different spots around the country, you would expect the price to be the same all the time. But just because of the semantics of it, right, how the data is transmitted, the speed at which the data goes from one location to the next, allows these high-frequency trading firms to say, if there's a fraction of a difference, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be that there's a fraction price difference, right? It could just be that they have some type of information knowing that this is going to be traded in a large volume here, and then they can just run to the market across here and make the difference. And they make these tiny little spreads, and they have sold the idea that they help with liquidity and making the market for that thing. One of the ways that they do this is they pay brokerages to send them their their trading volume. So like, you make a trade on Robinhood doesn't actually fulfill that, they have somebody else fulfill that. Why would somebody pay Robinhood to fulfill their order? Because clearly it's more beneficial to them. Fidelis, I think, is the biggest in the high frequency trading realm. You probably never heard of them, but you can Google them and look up some information about them. There's not a lot of information out there about them, but that's one way they make money. Another is interest on cash and stocks. So one of the ways that you can, so interest on cash, right? Like, so if you have several grand sitting around in cash in your Robinhood account, the interest on a traditional broker would go to you. With Robinhood, they get that. And the interest from a traditional broker is fucking basically like quarters, pennies. It's just like, it's such a fucking nominal amount that nobody actually gives a shit. So Robinhood uses that as income for themselves. And obviously they're upfront about it, but when you think that there's 6.5 million customers, right, and if everybody leaves on average like a small amount in their account, then that adds up really quickly, right? So if you have let me just pull up a spreadsheet. So if you say had 6.5 million customers and each person left, let's say on average $150 in their account, that's almost $1 billion, right? $1 billion times 1%, that's $1 million or $10 million a year, right? So that could be tremendous. Another thing, how Robinhood makes money, as they mentioned stock, right? So you're like, how the fuck do they make interest on stock? One of the ways that brokerages make money is through lending stock that you own, and sometimes depending on the size and relationship you have with your broker, you can actually make the money in this. But if you're watching this video, you probably are not going to qualify for that or know how to do that, but it is potentially possible. But anyway, you can lend. Robinhood lends out the stock. So say there's 700,000 people who own a few shares of Apple, right? Because a lot of the people who use Robinhood don't necessarily have large account balances. So there's, say, 750,000 people that own 2 shares of Apple stock. That's 1.5 million shares. You have some hedge fund that wants to short the stock, right? So they will borrow those shares from different brokerages so that they can short the stock. And they borrow them from Robinhood, but they have to pay Robinhood something. So that is the interest that they pay to Robinhood. So those are the primary ways that Robinhood makes their money. By the way, there's a link for Robinhood in the description. You get a free share of stock if you do sign up and you fund your account. I also get a free share, but I actually use the brokerage platform. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why I pay attention to it. So now, what is the OCC? It is the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. Basically, it's the government organization that oversees all banks and I think maybe credit unions or trusts or something like that. And that is where companies will submit their application for to be a bank, to be like a national bank. And I actually went on their website and I searched through their applications and I wasn't able to find it, but I only spent maybe 20 minutes looking for it. I just wanted to see if I could pull it up for this video. But according to, I think it was the San Francisco Chronicle or something like that, originally reported it a few days ago, they applied to be a national bank. And if you've been following Robinhood for a little while, back in December, they tried to offer a cash management solution, which was essentially a savings account, like a deposit account. But with the way it was worded, they were going to use SIPC instead of FDIC. So SIPC is for brokers. It doesn't guarantee, it's not insurance for the money. It's only intended purposes if the money is for specifically allocated for trading purposes. And so if it was savings, how it was worded in the news release, that was not acceptable. So they actually took that down, and they do want to offer banking services, like be a full-fledged bank. They want to democratize the financial system. And if you think about it, that makes bringing that to the market, I think, would be tremendous. I work in financial services, and I'm all for this. If you think about, right, like, so I just made a video, if you want to check out the channel, on the stupid tax, overdraft protection fees, $34 billion in 2017. That's fucking crazy. But then there's, sweep fees, and there's, insufficient funds fees, and there's, you know, probably about 6 to 10 different types of fees the banks charge that don't actually cost the bank any money per se, or very, very, very marginal amount. And when Robinhood comes out with a solution for banking, they are going to, in my humble opinion, completely mop up with millennials and people going forward, the younger generation, because like my bank, I haven't even been into my bank in, I don't know, maybe since 2013 or something like that. It's been a significant number of years. So why bank with somebody that has an ancient app? I bank with a regional bank, not a national bank. And the app is just completely, it's cumbersome, it's old, it doesn't work very well, versus something like Robinhood, right, where it works. That's their whole thing, is they're primarily the app, and then they also have their website, but they're primarily the app. So if you could do your banking through the app, and they made it way more convenient, and they could offer, like right now, if you go in and you open up a savings account, right, you might earn promotional rate of a couple percent, maybe like 1.5 to 2.5%, maybe 3 if you use like Ally or one of the online type banks, but you earn a very, very small margin. However, the bank is more than happy to give you a loan for, you know, 10, 20%, maybe 23, 24% interest. So there's that delta between what they lend it at and what they borrow it at, right? They are essentially borrowing money from you for virtually nothing, and then they're lending it out here. So you're letting the bank use your money to make money. Now, that's a giant delta between what they lend it out to make money on and then what they borrow it at, right? So I think there's a opportunity there within the fintech industry for a company like Robinhood or some other company to come along and squeeze that margin tremendously. Because if you go into a bank, I wouldn't say that it was super awesome customer service personally. Banks seem to be like quasi-government agencies as it is, with the amount of information required and asked, and just the cumbersome, ridiculous nature of documentation that is needed to open one up. So I thought that was super interesting, and I wanted to make a quick little video on it, as well as how Robinhood makes their money. By the way, if you do want to use Robinhood to trade with, it's absolutely free, 100% free. I use it for myself for trading my options. If you guys want to check out those videos, there's plenty of them on the channel on how to trade options through Robinhood. Or if you want to use my link in the description, you'll get a free share of stock when you do so. Appreciate it. Peace.